What's going on, Mad Maniacs, and welcome back to, I believe this is episode 8 of the Mad Chatter, although I haven't really been keeping good track. Today we are joined by my friend Brad Hughes. Brad, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. So today is going to be a Star Wars-filled episode of the Mad Chatter. We have a lot of recent Star Wars news and a lot I want to talk about regarding Star Wars. That's what we're going to be doing today.
Wait, I
Um,
thought this was a Harry Potter episode. I don't know anything about Star Wars.
well, you know,
Whoops. Oh,
Brad,
we'll figure it out. We'll figure it
yeah, we may have to figure it out.
out.
But for those of you who don't know why that is so funny, is that Brad knows all things Star Wars. Brad is host of a co-host of a Star Wars podcast called Jedi Talk. So, Brad, do you want to tell my viewers a little bit about your show?
Yeah, we started doing Jedi Talk about 2 years ago, and it's had different versions of it. But I think the version we have now is probably the strongest version we have of it. Basically, we talk Star Wars news, break down Star Wars stories, take listener questions about Star Wars stuff. It's just all Star Wars. If you're not a Star Wars fan, you're not going to like the show. But if you're trying to learn more about the lore and, um, just have a positive discussion about Star Wars, we're the show for you. We talk about the books a lot and like a lot of the other canon material too, other than just the movies and TV shows. So if you're interested in that, give us a listen. We're on every place you can find podcasts. We're there.
All right, so Jedi Talk, great show, especially for breakdowns of stuff. Really enjoy it. But today we are going to be talking about the future of Star Wars. Even though I'm going to be using props this whole show, I have my Kylo Ren lightsaber here.
Nice.
Um, yeah, I just replaced the batteries on this thing, and it took like 10 minutes because the screw is really far away. But
Oh yeah, those
anyway,
little tiny, tiny screws
yeah.
that
But
like
anyway, I'm
go
looking
into the
forward
side.
to. I'm going to. I got my reservation for Savvy's when I go in
Ooh.
May.
Do you know
Uh,
which one you're gonna go with? Which lightsaber hilt you're gonna do?
um, I'm thinking. I forget which one it's called, but it's like the old Republic style one.
The Peace
Uh,
and Justice. That's what
yeah,
I got.
yeah, and I think probably green.
Nice.
But yeah, it's funny. I have a green lightsaber here too, but I have a green screen. So
Oh.
when you guys are watching the video, you can see that basically you just see right through it. It's kind of funny.
That's hilarious.
But anyway, uh, you also will notice that today is the breakfast edition of the Mad Chatter because I have cereal here because we're recording this in the morning. So as I
Ooh.
pour my bowl of cereal from my Star Wars cup, we're going to get right into the show today. So the first thing we are going to talk about is, well, this whole show is the future of Star Wars. Because I feel like we have talked a lot, at least on my channel in the past, about the whole Skywalker saga, and today we are looking to the future with the shows that are currently in development, rumored shows, movies, all of that. So the first thing we're going to talk about, we're going to start at the present day with The Mandalorian. So, oh, my lightsaber just fell. Brad, what are your thoughts on The Mandalorian, for those of you who haven't listened to Jedi Talk?
I really enjoyed the show. I was not a little. I was very reluctant going into the show, because I went to Star Wars Celebration in April in Chicago, and they showed a clip out of context, and the clip was very odd. It felt like a weird TV show, and I know it is a TV show, but like you don't want Star Wars to feel like that. But I was very surprised with the outcome of it. I think a few of the episodes were very meandering and kind of unnecessary, but overall, I think the show was fantastic. Episodes 1, 2, and 3 were fantastic, and then the middle episodes there kind of floundered, and then 7 and 8 were perfect. I really, really enjoy the show. I'm really curious what they're going to do with season 2 now. I hope they stay away from like the episodic feel of it. Like, hey, we're going to this planet, and we beat up some bad guys, and then we leave. I don't like that aspect of the show. I like the storyline a lot, so I'm hoping they focus more on that going forward.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the show. I a little bit towards episodes like 4, 5, 6 was like, are they just gonna just do separate episodes that aren't really connected? I
Hmm.
was a little worried, but then I was really, really happy with 7 and 8 and how they brought everything together. Um,
Yes.
So I trust that next season, even if it does have a little bit of that episodic feel, ultimately they'll bring it together. I hope they don't take as long to start to bring stuff together. I hope that they try to like intertwine stuff as the season goes on, just like not
Yeah.
at the end of the season. But yeah, so I really enjoyed the show. So what are you looking for? You kind of already mentioned it in season two.
I would like to see them bring in more. There's a rumor going around that Gina Devankar is going to be playing Iden Versio from Inferno Squad. That would be very interesting to me because that would be them really pulling in all these video games and stuff that they've. Yeah, it all connects, like all the books and stuff connect, but a lot of times it's not like a direct connection. This would be like a direct connection if they could pull all this together. I would like to see them pull even more stuff and bring in more characters that we know from other parts of Star Wars and bring them into the fold and let's see how they interact. Like I think Iden Versio interacting with Din Djarin would be fantastic.
Yeah. And this is just another kind of one-off question I have. We'll talk more about Star Wars in the theme parks later. How would you feel if they decided to film part of, or at least set part of season two in Batuu, even if it's only for part of an episode?
If they set it in Batuu, that'd be awesome. I would love it. I don't think you would want to film there. I don't think that would. I mean, first off, how would you do that?
Yeah,
You'd have to like either put everyone in costume or I feel like that filming in there would be a bad idea. But you could definitely set it on Batuu. I think it would be a great time, and I'm actually kind of surprised that Rise of Skywalker didn't mention Batuu because I don't know if you've done Rise of the Resistance yet,
I
but
haven't.
it's kind of important to the story of how the Resistance goes on, like goes moving forward. Um, so I think it would be I think it's kind of a missed opportunity if you don't set something on Batuu.
Yeah, I get that they want to like keep Batuu kind of its own thing, right? Like they didn't want to like set it on like set Galaxy's Edge on like Tatooine because like then it would be so tied into the Skywalker saga. So I like that they did it as like its own new planet that they could be completely creative with
Mm-hmm.
and do their own thing. But I do think that now that it's done, they should try to like tie it in.
They've tied it into some of the TV shows. I know in the last episode of Resistance, which I haven't watched yet, but my co-host Evan told me that they mentioned Batuu. There's books about it. Yeah, tying it in somewhere would be a smart move. I mean, everybody would know what it is because a lot of people are going, so it
Hmm.
would be recognizable to people. You'd have an emotional connection to it already. I think it's a smart move.
And even if people don't recognize it, it's not like they're going to question why it exists. They'll just be like, oh, it's another planet.
Yeah, yeah. People who don't, you don't get it. Hey, that's not. I don't realize that was Doc Ondar's. That'd be cool. I mean, even just having some of the characters, like if you get to interact with Ogagara,
Hmm.
or Doc Ondar, like just having them in an episode, I think that'd be a cool time too, without having to go to Batu.
Yeah. So, yeah, The Mandalorian, great show. I think that it is a good stepping point for Disney into a future of Star Wars that is separate from everything we've seen in the past. It took a story in a completely different direction. It's got a whole different vibe than everything else. So transitioning from that, some of the directors from The Mandalorian, because the different episodes were directed by different people, are rumored to be directing other future Star Wars projects. And I think it was just yesterday, a rumor broke that Taika Waititi, who directed the finale of season 1, episode 8 of The Mandalorian, is rumored to be directing a future Star Wars movie. Did you hear this, I assume, Brad?
Yes, I did hear this, and I have mixed feelings on this because on my show I said I think it was a good idea, and I do think it's a good idea. That being said, I'm not a huge fan of Taika Waititi. Um, I do not like Thor Ragnarok at all. I think it's one of the worst MCU movies that they've done.
Wow.
I know I'm the only like me and like five people don't like this movie. I just feel like what he does is no matter what the story is, he just makes it funny. And I used to be a stand-up comedian, so like I love comedy, so that's not I don't like laughing, but I feel like when you change the tone of what the characters are, um, for no reason really, like people hate on Last Jedi for whatever I don't know, I don't know how you feel about the movie, but people always say like they changed the character of Luke. To me, like no, 30 years of time changed the character of Luke. Uh, in Ragnarok, you just get like Thor's now a stand-up comedian, and he's just like joking around with everybody constantly, and I just don't like that thing. And even at the beginning of The Mandalorian, that scene with the two stormtroopers, it's just like, okay, we get it's Taika Waititi doing it, and I like it, but it could be bad. You know what I mean? Like it could go too far. I don't think that'll be the case because I really ended up loving that episode that he directed. And I do think it'd be interesting to see him do a Star Wars movie. I'm cautiously optimistic. Let's put it that way. But I think it's a good idea. I mean, he's already in the Star Wars family. He knows how to do a movie like this. He did a show, so I mean, it's a natural progression. I didn't hate what he did, so I guess I'm on board.
Yeah, I get what you're saying with like the changing characters, but in episode 8 of The Mandalorian, with those two stormtroopers, I liked that was Taika Waititi, and that he didn't try to make any of the previously established characters funny. Instead, he
Absolutely.
just introduced new characters for a brief scene, had them be funny, but then the rest of the episode fit in perfectly with the vibe of the rest of the season. So in that sense, assuming that he generally knows what he wants to do, I like you said, I hope he does a good job in not obviously making it a comedy, because that's not what Star Wars is.
Yeah, I would like him to maybe do an episode. Here's my pitch was. Excuse me. For him, give him an episode of the Cassian Andor show, or let him show run the Cassian Andor show, because then at least you have K2SO, who's already a very established funny character, and you can let him do all the comedy because you'd expect him to be funny anyway. So instead of maybe giving him a movie, why don't you give him this Cassian series that they're doing? Because we haven't really heard much about that yet. That would be the way I would go about it.
Yeah, that's a good idea. All right, so next up we're gonna talk a little bit about another rumored project that has been getting a lot of buzz on Twitter the last 24 hours, which is the ObiWan Kenobi miniseries that was announced for Disney Plus, and then a rumor started going around yesterday that it was canceled, but it was just a rumor, and the sources were like flimsy. And now I think people are back to thinking it's still happening, but overall it's been very confusing. But I did get myself very upset when I heard the rumor that it might get canceled, because this is something I was very much looking forward to. What about you, Brad?
This is my number one. This is the thing that I just cannot wait to see. I'm so excited about this show. I don't buy the rumors that it's canceled. There's no way. You would have heard something official from either Lucasfilm or Deborah Chow, or Ewan McGregor himself would have said something. There's no way this is canceled. They might be having like some issues during production, but that's any standard production. It all depends on, how they're shooting it, where they're shooting it. Who knows? But I don't buy for a second that this is canceled. It's just people on the internet trying to get clicks. That's all it is. This show, man, I cannot wait for this. I'm so excited. Deborah Chow did my two favorite episodes of The Mandalorian, episode 3 and episode 7. So she's fantastic, and she's like an up and coming director kind of, and I'm very excited to see that they gave her the entire series of Obi-Wan, because I think she understands Star Wars. When you watch those episodes of Mandalorian, there's nothing in there that doesn't feel right.
Yeah. The Mandalorian is definitely like kind of a stepping stone, you can tell, for Star Wars, as far as like directors. They give people they're considering for bigger projects, episodes of The Mandalorian to see how they do. They did the same thing with Taika Waititi, assuming that the rumor of him doing a movie is true. And like you said, those 2 episodes are really good, and I think that she is going to do a very good job with this series. I cannot wait to see Ewan McGregor back as Obi-Wan.
The best part of the prequels, man. He's awesome.
I mean, yeah, the prequels are their own thing.
Disaster.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, they're bad. They're not good movies. We shouldn't sugarcoat it. But Ewan McGregor is awesome as Obi-Wan, and this is nothing against Guinness's character of Obi-Wan. But like when I think of Obi-Wan, and obviously it's much more screen time, but like Obi-Wan is Ewan McGregor, for me at least. And I loved him in the prequels. Like, even though the movies were not very well done in multiple ways, I thought he was really good, and I'm very, very much looking forward to seeing him, but directed by someone who's worked on a show that's gritty like The Mandalorian, and not as like cheesy as the prequels were, because I think that it could end up being a really good final product.
For sure. I think this show has the potential to be better than The Mandalorian. The only problem I think you might have is people having expectations on what it's going to be. We don't know the storyline yet, but I think it's going to be Obi-Wan like maybe trying to turn Vader one more time. We were having this discussion the other day on my podcast, and I can't remember in Rebels if Obi-Wan knows that Anakin has turned to Darth Vader yet. I can't remember if that's the case or not. But that would be a fascinating moment, is watching Obi-Wan find out that his friend is still alive, and he's turned into Vader, and watching him try to turn him back one more time would be very interesting. And it would tie into a line in Return of the Jedi. Obi-Wan once thought as you did. When we haven't seen that anywhere. So I think it would be a cool way to do that show, is to have that storyline take place.
Overall, I love when Star Wars ties things together that were previously like loose
plot holes.
Yeah. Well, like just in general, like filling in blanks that some might consider plot holes, but others might be like, oh, we just don't know what happened. Like Rogue One is awesome. Like the ending of that.
Movie.
What was that?
I hate that movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I love Rogue One.
I'm alone in this one, and I get it. For me, anytime there's I'll have the same problem with Obi-Wan. Anytime you know the outcome, there's no suspense. Like, and all that suspense of, are they going to make it to the ship in time for the Death Star plans? They do. So all the suspense is kind of taken out of the scene. It's a good, well-made movie. The first act is a little slow and dull. It all just kind of comes together really quick at the end. I love the stuff they did with Vader and Vader's castle and all that stuff. I think it's a good movie. I just don't dig it.
Yeah. Well, I think that the ending is great, because even though you know what happens, to have that to reference as to what happens is really neat to watch going into A New Hope, because then it's one continuous story.
Oh, yeah.
And even though you know at the end of Rogue One that they're gonna get the plans, seeing how that happens only adds to the importance of the opening act of A New Hope, because the urgency is continued from Rogue One into A New Hope. You saw everything that just happened that had to happen to get those plans, and you feel as if they're even more important than you already felt. So I really enjoyed that.
Absolutely. I think the movie, I think that the last 5-6 minutes is better than all of the movie combined. Watching Rogue One and right into A New Hope is one of the coolest things you can do. If you haven't done that yet, watch it. It's really fun.
Yeah, the ending of Rogue One is some of my favorite Star Wars, especially when you watch it going right into A New Hope. I just saw they did that on TV a few weeks ago. They were showing the Star Wars movies in chronological order, and I didn't watch it like straight through, because like I've seen all the movies like countless times before, but I did pop it on when Rogue One was wrapping up, so I could watch that straight through. And I don't think they even did like a commercial break. Like I think they purposely played it straight through. Oh, that's
cool. That's really cool.
So yeah, it was it was cool. All right,
that's awesome.
So next up, so those projects that we just talked about are like heavily rumored, backed by multiple sources. Although I didn't mention, I'll go back to the Taika Waititi slide. I have an image on screen that I forgot to mention, which is the album cover of Fleetwood Mac Rumors.
Oh yeah, I was going to bring this up. I forgot to.
Yeah, Taika Waititi tweeted this out yesterday, right? Yesterday?
Yesterday.
After all the rumors started coming about that he would be directing a movie. So, I don't know. He's acknowledged the rumors. So we will see.
We'll see.
All right, next up, the next rumored trilogy for the Star Wars franchise, which is set to come out years from now, so don't get too excited, but is rumored to take place during the era of the High Republic, which is, I think the number was 400 years before the prequels. Uh,
Yep.
yeah. So basically, this is completely its own thing. They're saying we are not tying it into the characters from the Skywalker saga, other than potentially Yoda, who's in peak physical condition at this point. In his life, he'll be like 500 years old, maybe a
Yeah, he's got a
little
six
bit.
pack. He's out there being a savage.
Yeah.
That's
But other than Yoda, that's the only potential time we could see. So, Brad, what are your thoughts on the selection of this time period and the fact that it's so far away from the other movies?
this is the direction they should go. If you're gonna do anything in Star Wars, it needs at this point until you do 10, 11, 12 in a few years, which they don't get it crazy. They definitely are going to do 10, 11, 12. Um, this is the move. Going way outside the known and established timeline is a good idea, because then you don't have anything tied in. Like, you don't, if you they introduce new Jedi and new Sith, you're not gonna know, oh, that's not my Yoda. I mean, that's the only character you have issue, I guess, running into to that, having Yoda be a headstrong Jedi. But it's a smart move. I mean, this is definitely the way to do it. You can set up a whole new franchise around this. You can, everything's going to still look and feel the same. It's the same universe. So I think it's a good idea. You could have, you could go to Moraband and go to Coruscant. There's a lot of potential for really interesting stories right here. And I think this is a very, very smart decision.
I think
If this is how this is going to go down.
Yeah, again, this is all just rumors. But if this is what happens, I think it's brilliant. Because, again, when you make that big of a time jump, if these movies go well, you're gonna see like the 3 movies that's rumored, like another trilogy. But who's to say they won't make a prequel trilogy to that trilogy, and then a sequel trilogy to that trilogy? It's so far back in time that you can do that and not risk like impeding on the story of like the Skywalker saga. So again, if Disney does a good job with this, if Lucasfilm does a good job with this, it could end up being really, really successful to the brand and the company. And if it ends up happening, this would expand Star Wars in the movie realm. They've already done lots of books and video games and all that, but in the sense that it's not just this one storyline anymore. And fans of the movies, like your more casual Star Wars fans who don't do like the video games and the books, will see that Star Wars is more than just Luke, Han, and Leia. Like, it's a universe that has like numerous storylines that you can explore that haven't been explored yet. And I think that this, if done well, could end up with that.
Well, I mean, you brought up the Han and Leia and Luke thing. Like, this is basically hitting the reset button on what Star Wars can be. You can have your version of Han, Luke, and Leia in this trilogy. There's going to be smugglers still. There's going to be pilots. There's going to be factions of people that don't like what the governing republic does. I mean, there's a lot of really interesting things you could do when you kind of hit reset, which is a good idea, I think.
I hope they just they don't follow their formula thus far, which is a trio, one of which can use the Force, goes and fights a bad guy who's controlled by a bigger bad guy. Like, I hope that they mix it up a little bit. Don't just follow the same formula. I think if you're gonna hit that reset button, reset, start from scratch. And I'm not saying,
Well, here's the thing, though. It depends on how much they keep from. I guess they have to keep it because it's canon. I mean, the whole Sith and the Rule of Two thing, they're going to have to keep some of that.
I think I saw that this takes place after the Rule of Two was put in place, which, for viewers, if you don't know, that is the rule that was addressed multiple times throughout Star Wars, but basically is that there's always 2 Sith, a master and an apprentice. So
yeah, one that has the power and one to crave it. So this would be, they'd still have to have some sort of that angle because that's canon. So I saw there's a way to do it. I mean, there's a way to do it. So
Yeah,
this would,
I'm not saying that they have to like break canon or anything like that. Like I think it can be done, and I also hope they don't move away from that entirely. Like the Mandalorian's great, but like I don't want them to do like purely like have the main character of this new franchise be just like a bounty hunter or a smuggler. And while there can be some main characters that are that, I think that they shouldn't just remove the Force and Jedi's like entirely from the story, because when you're jumping that far back, this is an era where the Jedi was even more prominent. So you can't just like remove that and ignore that. I just hope that they don't take a formulaic approach to it, and explore some more expanded universe ideas with the Force and with Jedi. Maybe Gray Jedi or something like that. Just try some new stuff out. See what you can do with something that's not formulaic.
and please don't put Yoda in this. Please don't.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like
I don't want it.
I feel like it would. I feel like it would be dumb of them to do so, because they would basically be saying, "Please give us Outlash." Like like no matter what, someone's going to be unhappy with it, but they're gonna.
Yeah, for sure. They're going to, because he's a bankable known character, and if you can build your news, not build, but like have Yoda in there even for a little bit, I think that's something that they would do just for marketing.
He's gonna if they do this, he's gonna be in it.
I know. I don't want it.
Even
I
if,
don't want it
even
so
though
bad.
it makes sense for them from a fan response standpoint to not even mention Yoda in the entire trilogy, he'll be in there because he's Yoda.
So powerful, and he's Yoda.
Yeah.
Yep. Be brave. Don't stick to characters like that.
I mean, like, I love Yoda, don't get me wrong, but like,
me too.
To me, if it's like, if you're trying to distance yourself from the Skywalker saga,
don't bring up characters from the Skywalker saga if you're trying to get away from it. Don't say you're trying to get away from it and then bring characters into the fold.
Yeah. Anyways, the last thing we're going to talk about today is Star Wars in the theme parks. Galaxy's Edge is amazing. I was there 2 days in November before Rise of the Resistance opened, which I've heard is just like beyond words.
It is.
And I hopefully will get to do that when I go back in May. But yeah, Galaxy's Edge is awesome. I don't understand even to this point why people were negative towards it when it first opened.
Me either. So stupid. People are just hating.
There is certainly room for improvement. I'm not going to deny that. But there always is going to be room for improvement.
Yep. There's room for improvement at Disneyland. Nothing's perfect.
Yeah, nothing's perfect. And, unfortunately, just because of the way the internet is today, people are always going to be upset. And it's kind of a shame, but, there are always going to be people that no matter what choice you make are going to be upset. And it's really unfortunate. I think there's a lot of negativity out there, unnecessarily negative. Because obviously people have their opinions, and that's fine. But there are people who try to push negativity, and that happened with Galaxy's Edge, where people felt the need to just push the idea that Galaxy's Edge was unsuccessful. And they
so stupid.
They looked for like even the smallest things to go wrong, so they could be like, Galaxy's Edge is a disaster, it's a failure, it's not working. But like, it is. It's successful. It's crowded every day. People are getting up and getting to the park at 3 a.m. to go ride Rise of the Resistance. It's clearly doing well. So to anyone listening
people were waiting for Rise to open, which I understand. If you could only go to Disney or Disney World or Disneyland once or twice in your life, you're gonna wait until the big things open. Like, I totally understand. I live here. I live one exit away from Hollywood Studios, so I get to go very, very often. I'm actually going again tonight. Probably was there last night. I'm fortunate enough to be able to live here, but I understand if I didn't live here, if I still lived in North Carolina, I would be waiting till Rise of the Resistance opened. I wouldn't be heading down the day Galaxy's Edge opened. There was a lot of people just waiting, and That's
But
fine.
it's not
But now
like
you're
it was
seeing
empty. Like, it
no,
was
no, no. It was
not...
never dead. I mean,
Yeah.
there were sometimes it was dead, but it was just the rest of the park was also dead. It had nothing to do with Galaxy's Edge. Galaxy's Edge has always been the busiest part of that park at Disneyland and at Hollywood Studios. You know, if you go on a slow day, quote unquote, and you see all the wait times, Falcon will have a three or four times the amount of wait that any other ride does. So it's not people not interested in Star Wars. Like, that whole narrative is silly to me because you're just wrong. There's people, if you're tweeting about something and you have like a hashtag, it's not dead. Like, you can't be like hashtag Star Wars is dead. It's like, well, you're talking about it, so it's not dead. And the last movie just made $1 billion, and
What I
you're
don't
seeing
understand
boarding groups
is that...
gone in 3 minutes all day, every day.
Yeah. What I don't understand is that, like, Rise of Skywalker just hit $1 billion, and people are like, how will Disney recover from this absolute failure? I was like, it made $1 billion. Like, 99.999% of us will never even sniff close to that amount of money in our lives. And people are like, this is a failure. How? How is it a failure? I just, it pains me.
Those are just people who just want to, like, those kind of people are just screaming into the void, hoping that someone sees it. And that's why negativity is so prevalent on the internet, is because it's for clicks, man. The only people who were saying that Galaxy's Edge was a failure had a website dedicated to Star Wars being a failure and needed clicks to survive. That's all it is. And so I don't even acknowledge it anymore. Like, I just can't. Like, if you think Star Wars, the Rise of Skywalker making $1 billion is somehow a failure, you're crazy. Even with that Hollywood accounting of, like, has to make 3 times its budget back. Okay, well, it was a $200 million budget. $600 million would have been 3 times its budget. It made $400 million more than that. So what are we talking about here? Like it's not a failure. We live in a time where a movie can make $1 billion at the box office, and people are calling it a failure.
That's so sad.
It's insane. Sad. Most movies will never make $1 billion. Dude, I always
whole
forget.
Franchises have never even made $1 billion. Like,
right?
People have made like 4, 5, 6 movies of a single franchise, and it hasn't combined reached like $1 billion.
Right. But I always forget, like, because I pay attention to box office. I'm a big movie fan. I pay attention to box office and stuff. And every once in a while, you'll hear a movie like, "Wow, I had a $15 million opening weekend. That's huge for this movie." And then you're like, "Yeah, I forgot. That's still like an insane amount of money." Like, you hear $1 billion all the time with Star Wars and Marvel. Like, that's a lot of money, man. It's crazy. And
a lot of people who have gone and seen that movie.
I don't get it. You can not like the movie. That's totally fine. That's your decision. But, or how, not even decision, how it hit you. But to call it a failure is just insane.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, it's crazy. Because, like, it's, again, like you said, you can dislike it, but, like, mathematically, statistically, it's not a failure. It's made $1 billion, which, again, like you said, is, like, 5 times its budget. So, like, failure is not, you know, making enough money to, like, pay back the budget or whatever. Like, Cats is a failure. All right?
Failure.
Like,
yeah, that
Corvin,
like
I'm sorry if you're watching this, but Cats is a failure, okay? Star Wars, not a failure.
Solo was a failure.
Yes, Solo was
box office wise, but it was a good movie. I like Solo. It's fun.
It was I thought it was
It's not a perfect movie. It's fun.
Oh yeah, it was
That's how I feel about it. It's alright.
But yeah, Rise of Skywalker is not a failure. Galaxy's Edge is not a failure, but Galaxy's Edge can be improved. And since we are looking to the future of Star Wars in this episode, even though we just went on a 5-minute rant about the past of Star Wars, what do you want to see added to or changed in Galaxy's Edge over the next few years to improve it?
The only 3 things I think this land needs, 4 things actually, to be like a completely, fully immersive Star Wars experience is they need some level of interactivity in the land. The Play app is fine, but it's not interactive. Like, you go up and scan a crate and you play a little puzzle. To me, that's not interactivity. That's time killing.
I would like some more interactive stuff that isn't revolving around the app too.
Yeah. I don't know what you do though, because then, like, you're on Batu and like you can all of a sudden use the Force somehow. Like I don't know what you do, but that's why those people get paid a lot of money and are way smarter than me. They need to figure it out. I think that's something that needs to change. I also think having roaming droids and aliens is a straight up necessity. Star Wars is droids and is aliens, and you have to have that in a Star Wars story for me. Like if they did a Star Wars movie and it was no droids, no aliens, it wouldn't feel like Star Wars.
Yeah.
And so when you go through walking through Galaxy's Edge and it's just all humans and there's no bounty, they need like cosplay in there. Like have for people who work for Disney who are walking around like bounty hunters.
I mean, that's what I thought it was going to be when they first announced it a few years ago.
Well, that's what they had said. It was like, it's going to be this way. Like, I was in there in the cantina a few weeks ago when I was in there, and I was like, how cool would it be if, like, a bounty hunter just walked up to the counter and just, like, stood there for a minute, got a drink, and walked off? Like, a small little immersion things like that would be perfect. And then my last thing is something that they had announced and then pulled back on, and they went as far as to making all the stages for this. At Star Wars Celebration in Orlando 3 years ago, whatever it was. I think it's 3 years ago now. They announced at the panel they had for Galaxy's Edge that they were going to be having these elaborate choreographed fight scenes taking place in person over your head while you're walking through Galaxy's Edge, and all that stuff got cut back. They even showed us test footage of the fights. Like they got really far along.
Is that the stuff that they did with the Rise of Resistance opening, like during the press event for that?
I didn't see any of that stuff because I was trying not to pay attention because I was writing it the next day. But I do need to go back and watch that stuff. I remember seeing like a photo of Rey and Kylo Ren.
Yeah, they were having like
This was more along the lines of like a Resistance spy getting chased by stormtroopers.
Okay. Well, they're in that sequence, which was on like the rooftops, kind of by the First Order section of Galaxy's Edge. It was Rey and Kylo Ren, but there was also, I continuously blank on the name of the character, but the name of the character that they created for Galaxy's Edge, the Rebel Spy.
Well, she wasn't created for Galaxy's Edge, but yeah, by Marati.
Sorry, I'm not as
you're
educated.
Good. She was in the Captain Phasma novels where she came from, and kind of got adapted into. She's like Leia's left hand spy, like her go-to spy. Her name is Vi Marati.
Vi.
She's awesome.
Well, anyway, that fight included Vi fighting a few stormtroopers as well.
So then, that's what it would have been. But it would have been like, you've been Galaxy's Edge, so you know that like walkway over by Oga's,
like
that
kind of like
bridge-looking thing.
Kind of like
Yeah. There were supposed to be people fighting on that.
Oh, that would have been awesome.
Like just running by, there was a lot of that kind of stuff that got cut out, and it was all released publicly. Like this isn't like any hidden info. Just it was released at Celebration, and they never talked about it again. And I think one of those things that would just be so cool.
I think this is the sort of stuff they could come back to.
Yeah.
It's not. It wouldn't be hard to.
Back to. I hate myself.
Wait, I got the new sound. I got the new sound effects from my Stream Deck. I know you can't hear, but there's a laugh. There's a laugh track playing. But yeah, I don't know. Is that too? Yeah, that's really quiet. I'll fix that later for my listeners who probably couldn't even hear that. But there was a laugh track sound effect. But anyway, yeah, I feel like this is the sort of stuff they could and should implement.
Yeah. I mean,
it wouldn't be that hard to just kind of throw it in there.
All the infrastructure's there. Just do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
But yeah, as for me, I think that Brad pretty much hit the nail on the head. I want to see more interactivity that doesn't involve the app. I'm still not a huge fan of the app. It kills your phone battery. And I would rather be doing stuff that's not part of the app. I'd also love to see some other, and this kind of goes in with the interactivity, some smaller experiences that aren't $100+ just like minor things. You pay $10, $15 and you get to do like one special, like some sort of I don't know. I don't really know what I even want, but like, some sort of interactive thing that you can that just kind of increases the interactivity around the land, gives you more to do when you're not doing a ride or shopping or something like that. Um, Definitely roaming droids. I don't need to talk any more about that. I think that Brad hit the nail on the head with that one. And then I think just increasing overall, including droids and aliens, the presence of Star Wars in the land, in the sense that, like Brad said, like the fighting, that would be awesome. Just increase the amount of people walking around, more rebel spies walking around. I don't think it would be that hard to dress up a few more cast members in Resistance, uniforms, and have them walking around interacting with the land, just like the Vi character does. So, I mean, I think that would be awesome. And this is also something I talked about when I had Rob Plays on this show. We kind of, through a conversation, ended up coming up with this idea together. But have some sort of ticketed event after hours, like the Disney After Hours, where you can go to Galaxy's Edge, and it's a select number of people. They've got more cast members out, like we've been saying, droids, and there's some sort of event, like in Galaxy's Edge, that is going on, that you are part of a story. There's a story unfolding in Galaxy's Edge. Like,
You're there for Life Day.
Yeah. But
that'd be fun.
But just like something, whether it's like you go and you buy a ticket as a Resistance member, and they implement, I don't know, this is getting like crazy, and like I know this won't happen, but like they implement some sort of like laser tag system with like stormtroopers, where like you go through the I don't know what I just
what if they did what if they added an attraction that was like you're joining the Resistance. So like let's say that's in this fictional scenario, there's 3 attractions in Galaxy's Edge. One is you get to do the Millennium Falcon, the other one is Rise of the Resistance, and the third one is a next level version walkthrough of Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin, and you're like practicing because you joined the Resistance, and you're like going
like
through
the
training.
VR thing in Disney Springs, but real.
I'm thinking more along the lines of like target practice.
Yeah.
But you're going through this like highly themed area, and like to you, it's supposed to be real, and like you go through and like you just kind of you're going through like boot camp for the Resistance.
Yeah.
That'd
And it doesn't
cool.
need to be like high budget either.
Yeah, no, you could go in and like,
Yeah.
or I don't know, maybe the thing that they're doing at the Star Wars Hotel, add that restaurant, man. Like that's one of those things that just is such a bummer that we lost.
Yeah.
Was the sit down dining restaurant, because Oga's was originally intended to be just the waiting room for the restaurant. It was like to hang out in there before you go into this cool hoop-de-doo in space is kind of how they described it, restaurant experience at Galaxy's Edge. And I'm hearing rumors that it's going to be in Disneyland, and then it's going to be at the hotel here in Orlando. So I don't know, man. It all seems like very small fixes to make it super perfect, but I love what we have already. And I also do think too it's a little crowded right now to have droids walking around through the parks. So I get it. But I think like further down the line, it'd be cool to see some stuff added. And according to Scott Trowbridge, I talked to him the day before opening day at Galaxy's Edge, and I like hugged him and I was like, "Thank you so much for making Star Wars. I'm a huge Star Wars fan." And he goes, "This is just the beginning. Trust me, there's way more coming." And I was just kind of like, "What? There's more?" So that's coming straight from Scott Trowbridge, and apparently there's more coming.
Well, I hope there is, and I think there is. Like I genuinely believe that Disney knows this, like what we're saying, knows the things that they need to do to make the land even better, and I think that they're working on them. And like you kind of just said a minute ago, I think they're kind of biding their time till the crowd dies down a little bit, at least, and then they'll start to implement these new things, hopefully. But maybe for the 50th anniversary, we'll start to see some new stuff.
Yeah, maybe. You never know.
There's been the consistent rumor with Disney that they're gonna do like 50 new things for the 50th anniversary, and they would obviously mainly be small things around the resort. Perfect opportunity to throw 1 or 2 things in. It'll give Hollywood Studios some representation in that list.
I
So
mean, dude, they could even just bring out C-3PO and R2-D2. Let me get a picture with them in front of the Falcon.
yeah,
Like you could do. I mean, that one's probably tough because it's so hot in that metal suit. I would assume that'd be tough. But like you could do something small like that. You know, bring out. And don't bring out Vader because that wouldn't make any sense. But like we could bring out characters that exist in that timeline. You know, bring BB-8 out. I don't know. There's a lot of things they could do to make it better. I mean, BB-8's in the attraction for Rise of the Resistance, so like he's there.
and like you said, the infrastructure's there for those fighting sequences. Like literally, they could choreograph them behind the scenes, and like within 2-3 weeks, they could probably have something ready to go for the land. Like it's
Yeah.
again, it's not wouldn't be hard to, make
I
this
mean,
happen.
did you see the thing with the X-wings? I'm assuming you did.
I did, yes.
Dude, that was the coolest thing in the world. Like seeing real X-wings flying above Galaxy's Edge. It looks really cool in video, dude, but in person, it was unbelievable. It was the coolest thing ever, and it was such a small thing, and it lasted all of 30 seconds, but it made such a big difference. My kids talk about it. They're like, "Are those X-wings still there?" And it's like, it's such a small. I mean, it's not a small thing because they're like, it's aircraft, but like it's just a small. It's a small detail that like people remember. I mean, that's one of those things that like I'll never forget.
I mean,
It's
Disney
so cool.
spends so much money every night on fireworks. How much would it cost for them to once a night fly some X-Wings up over the air and then have them land?
I think it's more of the hassle of it. From what I understand, there was like a lot of stuff with like backstage areas becoming inaccessible while they were doing this, and it's more of an infrastructure thing. But I think you could probably move them to an area where it wouldn't be as big of a hassle.
I can't imagine that if they didn't want to, they could figure something out. Like, they could figure something out if they wanted to.
It's so funny you said the fireworks thing. When this was happening, I was like, guys, figure this out. And they're like, I was like, you can figure out fireworks. You can figure this out. I actually tweeted this out. People were like, it's actually really different. I'm like, I know it is. I didn't say it wasn't. I said, figure it out.
Yeah, they're not the same thing. But
no, but if you can figure out explosions in the sky over people, you can figure out aircraft.
Yeah, I mean, like, Disney's setting off, like, thousands of dollars of explosives around you every night.
Yeah.
I think they could fly some drones if they wanted to.
Right, yeah.
So, yeah. But yes, Galaxy's Edge, future hopefully is looking bright. And we've already recorded but one more quick question before we wrap this up.
Sure.
Would you like to see Star Wars be relatively subdued in the parks other than Galaxy's Edge? Like, in Disneyland, they still have Launch Bay and Star Tours. We have it here in Walt Disney World still. Do you want that stuff to stick around? Because, like, it presents Disney an opportunity to do different things that they can't do in Galaxy's Edge because of the theming restrictions? Or are you pretty much of, like, the mindset, like, Galaxy's Edge is Star Wars and Disney parks, and that's all we really need?
I go back and forth on it. I like going through Launch Bay and seeing, like, other merchandise that isn't specifically Batu. I also like the ability to go meet Darth Vader. And I also like seeing props from the newest movies. So I'm a little torn on it. I like Launch Bay. I think Launch Bay is probably better at Hollywood Studios than it is at Disneyland. Because especially when they had Hyperspace Mountain, like Tomorrowland was all Star Wars. I don't know, man. I kind of go back and forth on it. I think... you know what? I'm going to say no. I like it. I like it being there. I got to say. I think I like it better at Hollywood Studios than I do at Disneyland. But I like having the option to not be on Batu, but still have a cool Star Wars experience.
Yeah. As for me, I've never been to Disneyland, but I do believe that they should keep it in Hollywood Studios, but take it out of Disneyland because now that Disneyland has Galaxy's Edge, they take the opportunity, fix Tomorrowland completely.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
Kind of revamp the whole land, and that would involve removing Star Wars entirely. Because they have Galaxy's Edge now, and in Disney World it's different because we have multiple, like four different parks compared to their two. So they have to do things like put Galaxy's Edge in Disneyland. But we were able to put it in a park that it really belongs in. So we can keep the stuff like Star Tours and Launch Bay because, it just works in Hollywood Studios. It's not super amazing thematically, but, it works. in Disneyland, the whole Tomorrowland has been messed up for years, and now that they have Galaxy's Edge, from an outside perspective, I've never been to Disneyland, like I said, but I think that it would probably be smart to just revamp all of Tomorrowland, just kind of fix the problems that they've had for years.
I think you're going to see that sooner than later, and I think the person that's going to be doing it might surprise you, and that's all I'm going to say. I may or may not know something.
Well,
but I can't say it here.
I won't wait.
I'll tell you off the air.
All right. Well. I am looking forward to the future of Star Wars in general, and I assume that you are too.
Future.
But
bright future, man. So much good stuff.
So much happening. Star Wars is not dead.
No, and don't let the internet tell you Star Wars is dead. Anybody that says that is not paying attention.
I mean, it's pretty obvious that Star Wars is not dead.
I saw the picture yesterday of like Main Street at Disneyland just completely flooded with people, and I was like, I thought Star Wars was dead. What happened to that? No one cares about Galaxy's Edge, remember? Oh wait, that's all lies and nonsense.
Well, thank you guys, everyone, for watching. Please go check out Jedi Talk, Brad's podcast. Really great show. If you enjoyed this episode of The Mad Chatter, you will almost definitely enjoy Jedi Talk, because Jedi Talk is all Star Wars just like this, except they know what they're talking about.
Sometimes we know.
So, great show to go check out. Brad, you have a Twitter as well, if you want to plug that real quick.
Yeah, follow me on Twitter @ViewsWithHughes. More Star Wars stuff. I've been to Disney parks a lot, so if you like the parks as well, you'll find cool stuff on there. I don't really use Instagram, but I have one, so if you want to do that, that's cool too. @ViewsWithHughes. Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. This was a good time. We should do it again.
Yep, it was a lot of fun. If you guys enjoyed this, please subscribe to the channel down below. I do all sorts of different videos, not just Star Wars videos and not just podcasts. I probably do too many different types of videos, if I'm being totally honest, but I like to mix it up, keep it fresh, and do different things. But if you want to check out some of my other stuff, just go to my channel. And if you go to playlists, I have like 10 different playlists with all the different types of videos I make, so you can look for something that appeals to you and give it a watch. But thank you guys so much for watching. Brad, thank you for coming on the show, and I will see all of you Mad Maniacs in the next video.